Okay, we'll work. We'll work. There is no problem. Professor José Maria Guilherme is from Polytechnical University of Catalonia, and it's
a friend of Portugal. Thank you, Professor.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to that forum. You know that I strongly believe in the association you promote, but later on we will have opportunities to talk about the association and the future of the association. Well, you sent me an email, and with that title. I don't know where did you pick up this title. I suppose that maybe of another conference, or maybe the conference in Famalicão.
No, you used this title. I think in I don't remember where it is, in Slovakia or I don't remember.
Okay.
In Slovakia.
The two ships.
Okay.
So this is I will talk to you today on that subject, this subject which I am very much interested now. I am doing practical research on that subject. Well, the index of my presentation: first, introduction to the approach and basic definition; second, knowledge economy definitions and characteristics; third, principles and theories of wealth creation in the knowledge economy; who creates wealth and how wealth is created in the knowledge economy; fourth, methodology and frameworks for diagnosing wealth creation potential of nations in the knowledge economy; reflections on the case of Spain, and I did the case of Portugal because I don't have time to, but I will talk a little bit about Portugal. And finally, some conclusions. Introduction to approach and basic definitions. I will try to give an answer to those fundamental questions that concern me. The first is that this presentation creates wealth in a specific country in the context of a knowledge economy. How is wealth created? How to determine the wealth creation potential of a specific nation? For example, Spain, Portugal, Greece. Has Greece wealth creation potential? Yes or not? What could happen in the future? What could happen in the future of Portugal? Does knowledge economy context fundamentally change rules of wealth creation? And intangible assets the main drivers of wealth creation? These are fundamental questions that I think most of you are interested, especially after the presentations, the other presentations we had this morning. And they paved the way to my presentation. So my presentation, I will skip some slides because the subject of the particular slide have already been treated in previous presentations. So basic definitions: definition of wealth. This is a classic definition of wealth. Measure value the assets of worth by a person, community, company, or country. Wealth is the present value of respective stream of future activity that is that an entity both to extract from tangible and intangible resources available. Well, I don't keep very much attention. Everybody has in his mind what wealth is. So I skip those definitions. Well, let's jump to another subject, my today's presentation. Knowledge economy definition. What's the knowledge economy? I will try to give some definitions and which are the main characteristics of the knowledge economy. First of all, it's obvious that knowledge contains of goods or services. The goods that we have today, for example, Sans 6 Edge, there's a lot of knowledge packaged inside the product. And many patents inside. I think maybe Samsung has more than 8,000 patents. So there is a lot of knowledge inside that product. So there is another another lot of knowledge inside. Other Apple to bear, for example, the new BMW. Okay? So the technological products with a lot of knowledge. But other products like this mineral water, there is a lot of intangible inside. And the brand, there is one intangible. Intangible products and intangible assets, they go together, the tangible assets. So all the products we have are knowledge intensive. The same occur, for example, in the assembly line before and now. The assembly line without work. There's a lot of technology and in the text, for example, in sectors that are less knowledge intensive. The business model, for example, of Inditex is one of the best business model in the fashion industry. From that intuitive perspective, we go to the economic theory. In the economic theory, the main sources of wealth have been always labor, and capital, and knowledge. And in the evolution of economic theory, we have passed from the agricultural era to the industrial era, and we are now in the knowledge era, in which knowledge is main source of wealth. What varies is the proportion, Knowledge economy has always existed. The difference is now proportion, knowledge, or product, service is high. That's the difference. Here we have a list of different economies that have to develop knowledge, to develop the theory, embryonic theory of knowledge economy, and knowledge-based development. But knowledge development has not consistent body theory now. So the ones that are working on research, there is an opportunity to develop a theory of creation in the knowledge economy. I will try today, I am working in that sense, and I try today to give you some my ideas on that specific subject. So, in the national case, the physical and financial capital is only a little bit part of the gross domestic product of any particular country. The other part are all intangible. This is similar to the tree, but your tree was more five metal. This is the iceberg doesn't present so well. Like the
tree belongs also to your website, so you can share together.
What? If you want to know more about knowledge economy, and there is a book I wrote with Rosario Cabrita that is here, and working in the group for 5 years. 5 years. And there is a that development is knowledge economy, and part of the big part of the exposed to today is in this. Knowledge economy definitions. There are many definitions. This one, the generation and exploitation of knowledge has come to play the predominant part in the creation of wealth, and economic success is increasingly based upon the effective utilization of intangible assets. So economic success is increasingly based on effective utilization of intangible assets, such as knowledge, skill, innovation, potential as the key resource for competitive advantage. But you have said today, I am repeating what has been said today. And Charles, this is more important to have in mind. Which are the pillars of the knowledge economy? There are 4 pillars: an economic incentive and institutional regime, an educated and skilled labor force, an effective innovation system, and a modern and adequate information infrastructure. These are the pillars of the knowledge economy. Unless the country has these 4 pillars, it's impossible to the country to succeed in the competitive arena. And summarizing, so the pillars of knowledge-based economy: economic incentive and institutional regime, educated and skilled labor force, information infrastructure, and information systems. And all that interconnected and interdependent. Now, with that basis of theory, I will try to deduct some principles and theories of wealth creation in the knowledge economy. Some words on nature of human beings. Human beings strive for knowledge and its value. Curiosity and the desire for a better life are 2 of the most basic human instincts. And the use of a knowledge-based economy is that it lets us satisfy one of these primary emotions, wealth accumulation, by satisfying the other, that's curiosity. That's the nature of a human being, and always has been like that. At the same time, there is a knowledge problem in our society, and the problem can be formalized in 3 questions. First, how can a society optimize the use of knowledge? Second, how can we incentivize the creation and use of knowledge in such a way that people would be induced to create new knowledge and make the knowledge available to others? And third, how can we produce the knowledge needed for people to coordinate actions and produce economic and social progress? And the answer, if we reflect on these 3 questions, trying to give an answer of how these 3 questions could be answered, the right is that top-down and coercive systems of command and control don't work out so well. This coercive system, like command system, like the one that's in North Korea or in Cuba. And the same occurs when there is no democracy in a political party. So there are a few people that decide everything, and the others that they take part in the decisions. So no person, no company can have the information necessary to coordinate people with disparate goals and knowledge. So we find the solutions of the knowledge problem where? At the back of in a free market economy and politically democratic institutions. It's the only way to find solution Moses saw that capitalism is the only system that can deal with the knowledge problem. But you know that capitalism is under attack now. The financial crisis of 2008, the stagnation of the middle class in many developed countries, and rising income inequality, for example, in the case of Portugal, Spain, especially in Greece, are challenging some of our most held beliefs about how fair and functioning society should be organized. And now there are political view that in Portugal we have been elections and there are the political parties, blocos together, they defend other ways of organizing the society. So I well, maybe the society is the accumulation of solutions to human problems. Growth is an increase in the quality and the viability of solutions to human problems. So, ingenious of capitalism is an evolutionary system for finding solutions to human problems. So, capitalism is, there is no other system that solves the human problems better, find solutions to the human problems than capitalism or the market. That doesn't mean that the market economy has problems. We'll see over the citation in future. And in that context, what is government for? Implement democracy as a political system, creating laws and regulation, rule of law, to encourage economic activity that solves problems and discourage economic activities that creates debt. This is very important. Thus, fostering trust and cooperation in society. This is one very important thing. In essence, as said, Winston Churchill has been said that democracy is the worst form of government except all the others that have right. So, in the same statement for democracy would be applied to capital. So, in economic theory, for the ones that are interested in the theoretical part, in economic theory, the basis of economic theory or knowledge-based the development are found in the Austrian School of Economics, and the main economic factors in the Austrian School of Economics: choice, entrepreneurship, free and competitive markets, private system. Oh, but you know, capitalism produces or market economy. That's in practice the same, but capitalism has a negative connotation. So better use the expression market economy. And I suggest, for example, the government in a democratic system with a free market economy has to take care of inequalities, to avoid extreme inequality. And also, at the same time, there are deficiencies in the market economy that have to be correct. In that sense, I suggest this book, The Human Economy. Is a very old book that I read when I was 25 years old, because propagated I first studied engineer, and I graduated as an engineer. But at that time, we were reading novels and economic books, and they in my hands this book of Roque, and it's one that inspired the rest of my life. And I studied economics, and I graduated in economics, and so I abandoned my previous career as an engineer. So, forming social, economic, and financial policy task which is to think beyond the market, to equalize interests, set rules of the game, and limit market power. And Roque strove for an economic order, economic humanism is also referred to as a kind of. Well, some more recommendation that I suggest you, once you are interested in this particular subject, that this book, Why Nations Fail, that argues that the key differentiator between countries is institutions. This book falls in what is called institutional economics. Nations thrive when they develop inclusive economic institutions, and they fail when those institutions become extractive and concentrate power in the hands of only few. So what it says is that nations that succeed, they have democratic institutions and inclusive political institutions. So politics is very important for economic development, and institutions are very important, and institutions have to be democratic and inclusive. That inclusive means they need to include everybody. In a democratic system, everybody has the right and the possibility to access to power through elections, to system of elections, and through really a democratic system. For the ones that are interested in history, I recommend The Wealth and Poverty of Nations, that in essence, David Land said that growth without technological advance is not good. That's what happens when a country grows, because it's like we did in Spain with the real estate bubble and the house bubble. They built many buildings, but without not technological advance. And some more citations. Nations themselves do not compete, rather their enterprises do. Competition among nations can be seen in the areas of education and know-how. In a modern economy, nations do not rely only on products and services, they also compete with brains. So nations compete with brains. So we reached to the conclusion, if nations compete with brains, that means in the population of a nation, there are people that are not educated. The nation is plenty of drug addicts. That's all not possible for this nation to grow and to develop. And finally, the last citation, wealth is actually created in the microeconomic level of the economy. Wealth can only be created by firms. So if no firms, if no enterprises, if no competitive enterprises, if no excellent enterprises, no wealth creation. No wealth creation. Yeah? And more than 80% of the variation of gross domestic product per capita across countries is accounted for by microeconomic fundamentals. So wealth is created at the micro level. It's not the government that creates wealth. It's not the government that creates jobs. It's the real jobs, the jobs that make an economy sustainable are the ones that are created by companies, and not for all companies, but the companies that are excellent or competitive. Well, for the ones that are interested in building a theory of knowledge-based development in the knowledge economy, these are at the micro level the main theoretical foundation. And these are at the macro level for city, regions, and nation, the main theoretical foundation is for the PhD students. And these are here my contributions in both sides, at the micro and the macro foundation. And considering all that I have said till now, so I dare to formulate a kind of theory of wealth creation in the knowledge economy that is based in 6 factors, 4 macroeconomic factors. The one is free market economy, liberal democratic political system with inclusive political and economic and social institutions here. And a free market economy has to be knowledge-based. This is at the macro level. Yet the micro level, entrepreneurial and business excellence and high quality. That's the base of everything. That's the base of everything. So the first priority, high quality people. Second, entrepreneurial and business excellence. And wealth is created, 80% of the wealth is created in that part, in these 2 boxes. And the rest is created by the governments, but only 20%. But unless you have a free market economy, liberal and democratic system, there is no possibility to develop the micro part. So the macro part is a condition sine qua non for development the micro part. These are several indexes for measuring these 6 boxes. No? I will not go into that because it will take a lot of time. So, considering all I have said, it's possible to formulate theoretical principles of knowledge-based development. Who creates wealth? The main source of wealth of a nation is people. Knowledge and other types of intangibles are in the head people. Without an educated, healthy, and hardworking population, there is no progress. Second principle, a free market economy with inclusive political and economic institutions is the sine qua non condition for sustainable economic and social development. Third, wealth and poverty of a specific nation is strongly dependent on the number of competitive or excellent companies that a specific nation has. Government does not create wealth directly, but it contributes to wealth creation when succeed putting into practice a free market economy and inclusive democratic, political, economic, and social institutions that could be summarized: liberty, order, and the rule of law. When there is no rule of law, the rule of the dictator, that doesn't work. An excellent or competitive company is the one that achieves long-term extraordinary profits due to the fact that it has a business model with sustainable competitive advantage. This is your part. In the knowledge economy, sustainable competitive advantages are mainly based on intangibles. Consequently, strategic management of intangibles or intellectual capital and intangibles is practically the same for practical purposes. Becomes a fundamental task. So this is a fundamental task. How wealth is created? Business excellence is always due to good strategy formulation and superior strategy implementation. Good strategy formulation and superior strategy implementation is always a human task. It strongly depends on the quality of leaders, very important. Top management team, key professional people, and knowledge workers. In a continuous changing environment, business models quickly get out of date, and as a consequence of that, innovation in business models becomes an urgent need. in any company, the essential activity to perform is always innovation in the business model. The business model encompasses everything: products, services, processes, everything. It's the synthesis of all the intangible, the valuable intangibles that the company has. Companies do not create alone, do not create what they need to collaboration with other companies, universities, what we have been said this morning, and research institute, financial institutions, government, and other organizations. In essence, in other words, they need to be active part of a territorial open innovation system. And finally, strategic management of intangibles needs also to be applied to the government of cluster, regions, and nations in order to build territorial open innovation system. It's the government that has the mission to build its territorial. So essentially, the people are the source of everything. With their knowledge, that mostly each time will be more scientific, with other intangibles, the heart, so the emotions, very important. And but not people working in competitive enterprises that at the same time, in order to be competitive, they need to be innovative, and at the same time, that all that in a suitable environment. These examples of very suitable environments for creating wealth. Well, now it comes a little bit of more scientific part, that methodologies and frameworks for diagnosing wealth creation potential of nations in the knowledge economy. There are two sets of framework: competitiveness frameworks, the World Economic Forum, the Global Competitiveness Index, and the IMD World Competitiveness Yearbook. And the AC community frameworks, that's mainly based on the Scandinavian Navigator, and some concentrate on knowledge creation, and there is my contribution as the national nations in the banking system. That's my contribution. The 12 factors of competitiveness of the World Economic Forum. This is the best existing methodology for evaluating wealth creation potential. This is the best existing methodology for evaluation wealth creation potential today. The AC community frameworks, there is a summary of all these contributions in the book of Carol E. and Leigh Benvinson. There are the two members of the new Club of Paris. There's the ones that, for the ones that were interested in the subject, there is an institution called the New Club of Paris that was created 11 years ago by Leigh Benvinson, David Bonfour, and others. And it's the variables they use: the human capital index, process index, market renewal. Well, and there are the books on navigating intellectual capital after the financial crisis. And this one, for example, national intellectual capital in the financial crisis, Greece, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. Well, I read this book, but I don't use the conclusions of the book in my evaluation of the wealth creation potential of Spain and Portugal. I am very interested in what will happen in my country, and in order to decide if to invest there or to leave the country and go to somewhere else, or that's my decision. So if the country has no wealth creation potential and it is going down, so for me it's very important to know that. At the same, I think Portugal. But I am not using. But that study gives me, is an approach that gives me some good ideas, and the methodology is quite scientific. So, but I think the effort has been really a great effort, especially from Carol, and the results are a little bit deceiving. The results are a little bit deceiving. Well, and my framework is a framework where the human capital base is the base of everything. So there is economic, political, and social institutions, and then this is the part that gives us sustainability to wealth creation that is performed, and in the different clusters or activities that my country has. In the case of Spain, construction, industry, services, and the primary sector. Obviously, we need to study in detail all this. Well, and so nations' economic and political models, so that's high quality people, and the 6 factors I mentioned before. And so, which are the main agents? Entrepreneurial excellence, entrepreneurial leaders, the leaders like the entrepreneurs this morning that were here, the entrepreneurial leaders, top management team, key professional people, for liberal democratic political system and inclusive political, economic, and social institutions, political leaders and leaders of economic and social institutions, and especially high quality people. No? Knowledge and skilled workers, conscientious parents. It's very important because the education is not given only at schools, but at home. And especially mothers are very important for the education. So when the families are not very well structured, that has negative consequences for economic development. And teachers in elementary schools are more important than the teachers of the university. Teachers in elementary schools are one of the main agents of economic development. Well, and now let's reflect a little bit on the case of Spain. And if I have a little bit more time, I have time.
Yes.
Yeah?
10 minutes.
Only 10. So I skip that and I pass directly to the song.
12 minutes. 12.
No, but you said that I started at 10, 3:10.
You need to start at 3. You need to start to finish at 3 because after we will try to connect with Manfred. Please continue. Continue. You have time.
I lose more motivation. I'm not interested in following.
You need to continue in order to have
because now I am
to have a coffee. To have a coffee after.
Well, reflections on the case of Spain. You see, this is my loving country. Well, in part, I live here. Maybe in the next map we will be separated from the rest of the Democratic Republic of Catalonia. Democratic Communist Republic of Catalonia. Well, we are within the European Union that has really advantage, especially the 2020. And in Spain we had a real estate bubble and a house bubble. There are bad examples of economic activities. So that raises a new concept. That's the intangible liabilities. Not only intangible assets, but intangible liabilities. The intangible, in companies, intangible liabilities coexist with the intangible assets. You have people that are really align with the strategy of the company, and there are others that are aligned with personal strategy. No? And so these negative aspects of Spain, no? Negative aspects also of kind of, and positive aspects, these are positive aspects of Spanish tourism. This is one of the main sectors, economic sectors we have in Spain. No? And this is very positive aspects. One of the main issues. And other positive aspects, we see this is the Sagrada Familia, Guggenheim, well, the bullfights. You have bullfights also in Portugal and flamenco. And we are very good in soccer, in the Barcelona Stadium. And
but you went
Messi.
Cristiano Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Well, Cristiano Ronaldo, but I am talking about Spain.
Oh, okay. We are waiting for the conversation.
But a lot of intellectual capital. Messi. One of the, not think that intellectual capital has to be always linked with scientific development. A lot of intellectual capital. Knowledge and skills converted into value. Very clever, very clever. So that's negative aspects of Spain. We have a lot of notes because there is a big underground economy and we pay with notes instead of transfer money or using credit cards. No? And negative aspects of Spain, the corruption. For example, the global index of corruption perception ranks Spain next to Poland in 40th place out of 100%. It scores points. Index of economic freedom, we have lost 21 posts. That's very important. These are indicators. If the country loses economic freedom, this is very negative. If the corruption increases, this is very negative for wealth creation. Well, this is the map of Spain's corruption. With all the flags of the corruption cases in different parts of Spain.
I think after this presentation you need to stay in Portugal.
Yeah, no, I put that because I want to stimulate you to do the same for Portugal. Oh, but that's because when we are talking about intellectual capital, we are thinking only on the positive aspect of intangible assets, but no, we don't talk about intangible liabilities. Remember the first speech today. There were only positive aspects. Intangible liabilities is very important. Well, and then the global competitiveness. It's supposed that Spain is a country innovation-driven. I doubt that. I think that Spain is an economy in transition from efficiency to innovation-driven. But if you want to know the more accurate analysis of the Spanish, of the wealth creation potential of the Spanish economy, you will find it global competitiveness. Well, this is a kind of balance sheet for Spain, prepared with assets and liabilities, prepared with information of the global competitiveness index. The human capital of Spain, human capital has education, health, and human capital has mainly three factors. One factor is education, the second factor is health, and the third one is education. You need healthy, educated, and working population that works. When employment, like in Spain, unemployment is a big rate of unemployment, nearly more than 20% in Spain. Portugal is 12% because the immigration that's very bad for wealth creation. But that's the main companies we have in the different sectors. And one thing that's common for Spain and Portugal, we have in Spain a model based in construction, tourism, services, and we need to move to a more modern intensive, more knowledge intensive model. Well, in summarizing all that and using the metaphor of the ship, this is the ship of Spain. The government, the population, the engine of the ship, there are the different sectors: construction, primary sector, services, industry. We have 17 autonomous regions. There are 2 regions that want to separate from Spain, the Basque Country, Catalonia. We had a real estate bubble, you see, and the ship has many holes. There are the problems, the liabilities. Huh? That's the ship. Huh? And
do you have a ship like this to Portugal?
Yes, yes.
Good.
Yeah, that is underwater.
There is from 2008 to 2001, we have lost 20% of our companies with the crisis, and we don't have enough innovative companies. And this is not. There are research and development. Investment is 7 billion, it should be 40 billion at least. Investment, research and development. The underground economy accounts for 20-25% of gross domestic product, is the same thing in Portugal. And the rate of unemployment is 23%, and youth unemployment in Spain is 49.6%. That's a company that has this rate of unemployment, a country that has this rate is the country that has a mortal illness. It's awful. It's awful. The foreign debt, total debt, net external debt. What is positive is that we are also, like Portugal, controlled, supervised by the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, the European Union, and because the crisis and all the problems, there are so many people that take some boats and go to other countries where there is better future. Well, the balance sheet of Spain, you have here the assets and liabilities, and we will need to put figures on all that. And that will be, the balance sheet will give us the wealth creation potential of Spain. Well, then some words on Portugal. Well, Portugal is the positive part of Portugal, the tourism, soccer, and a lot of intellectual capital, like Messi, like Messi.
Mourinho.
Mourinho also, because not only players but also coaches. There are a lot of intellectual capital. But maybe many people don't like Mourinho, but what is sure is that Mourinho has a lot of intellectual capital. The fados, very important product of Portugal, an intangible product. Fado is an intangible product. And the intangible product that inside the product there is knowledge, but fundamentally there are emotions, package emotions there. And so the wine that is another with brands that, for example, in all the Spanish supermarkets, especially Carrefour, I buy Salgar via Mateus. Yeah?
But you don't buy Tejo wine.
No. This is.
You need to buy.
Okay.
We need to explore.
So that's my methodology applied to the case of Portugal, and that's the global competitiveness index of Portugal. The global competitiveness index says that Portugal is an innovation-driven economy, is in that stage. I don't believe that. It's like Spain, I think it's in transition. So this report compares Portugal with the other countries that are innovation-driven. And the most problematic factors for doing business, don't forget that entrepreneurship and business are the key issues for economic development. So inefficient government, bureaucracy, tax rate, access to financial powers, but corruption rates very low. That doesn't match with all the information that I have. This is the sheet of Portugal, but in order to finish that metaphor, I will need your help and the help of Rosario. That I hope that you will give me all the information and it will be possible to build the ship. Construction, tourism, services, and industry, and population 12.4. So these are the liabilities of Portugal. Underground economy 19.8, but what's quite good in my opinion is only 12.6 unemployment rate and 34.7 youth unemployment. I think that in my opinion that is for the economy of Portugal, this is very good. This is very good. Total debt and public debt to gross domestic product. So, you see, this is an integrated report that takes sources from not only relies on intellectual capital, but relies on many other sources from other social and political science. And finally, bailout supervised, and the government, we don't know what's happening with the government. So Portugal is a country without government. Maybe it's better don't have government. Maybe that period of transition will be better than the period that will come with the new government, depending on the new
Professor, we will have 5 minutes because Manfred is trying to connect 5 minutes to finish.
So, and there are the different ships that many of the Portuguese, I think 500,000, have left Portugal and they go to other countries to work. Well, conclusions. So, you see that the 4 factors are that one, and we need to move to this stage of the different 4 factors to this other stage that could be better. And so improving nations' wealth creation potential in the knowledge economy is closely linked with strategic management of intangible at the macro level, economic and political model. And for strategy formulation, there is the SWOT analysis at the macro level in my methodology. And for strategy implementation, it's competitiveness frameworks, IND, and GFIC frameworks. Well, and finally, the last conclusions. There is no established body of wealth creation theory in the knowledge economy concept at the macro level. The existing body of theory is mainly based on the Austrian school of economics theory, and the contributions of other relevant theories suggest endogenous growth, competitiveness, and knowledge development. Based on this body of theories, the paper tries to formulate principles of wealth creation in the knowledge economy. It's a finished work. If somebody is interested in shares on that particular issue, please tell me. We'll be very happy to contribute. And if somebody is interested in going deeper in the case of particular case of Portugal, I will be interested. Next methodology is proposed as a more suitable alternative for diagnosing and improving wealth creation potential because its focus on strategy formulation is mainly inspired the principles of wealth creation have been mentioned before. And finally, that is very important, the strategic management of intangible or intellectual capital at the macro level is considered the best way to improve wealth creation potential of nations. And finally, this is an example. This is an example of.
Do you need our help?
Well,
wait, Professor, wait.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this is an example of a FADO, an intangible product that was created in a period of time. There were no information and telecommunication technologies, and this FADO was popularized worldwide. Everybody knows that it's FADO.
No temos som, não conseguimos.
No?
No, we have a sound problem, so it's impossible.
Well, I will show it.
But you can see.
You can sing. You can sing. 2 minutes to sing a little bit of. Thank you, Professor Diedme. It's an excellent presentation. I propose that we discuss your presentation when our last presentation is doing. Our last presentation will be due by our last Minister of Regional Development, and we will talk about intellectual capital of the country. So it's a good time to put the question to Professor Diedme. But in this moment, we have a presentation from Austria. I don't know if Manfred is in Austria or in Germany. I think in this moment he is in Germany. Manfred is a consultor. He represents Intangible Asset Consulting, and he had a professional problem, and it's not possible to stay with us, but he decided to participate by Skype. Yesterday we did the test and it was very okay. I hope that Manfred can interact with us. You can put the questions. You can imagine that Manfred is near us, but Manfred is, I think, hello Manfred, is in, are you in Germany or Austria?
Hello, I'm in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
Directly from Germany, we will use the broadcast, and I hope it will be a good session because Manfred is an expert, a very good practitioner in the area of intellectual capital applied to the regions, and he will talk about his academic and professional experience in this area. Many thanks. We are preparing the song, and after you can start the presentation. Okay?
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, very well.
Great. Just got a new message from Skype. Yeah, here we go. I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm integrated on this wonderful technological link to be part of your conference. And thank you very much for making that happen. I'm really glad that this works out. Florinda, I changed the title of my presentation from Intellectual Capital of Regions, and then I had challenges to adjust to a technological revolution. And in preparing these slides, I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about strategies. So this is a minor, I hope a minor, but interesting change. And my plan is to talk about a project I did in Germany, in the southern parts, where the automotive industry is experiencing a very tremendous challenge to adapt to technological change in the sector of e-mobility, the electromobility. And this is the main topic I would like to share with you. And I prepared a few slides, so I think I should just start. And I think I have like 25 minutes, 20 minutes. Is that true? Yeah?
Yes, you can have 25 to 20 minutes. And after we can do one or two questions and interact a little with you. The objective is to explain in reality your experience in this kind of industry is very complex, very competitive, and so on.
Okay, I see. So I hope that I could come to the next slide. Yeah, this is the next slide. This is my own background. So I have a background in the consulting and in the academic research position. I try to do strategic development, and I try to do some organization development. I do that for a couple of years, trying to do intellectual capital assessment. And I learned a lot of Professor Vietma, who talked briefly just before me. Happy to see you here, even though you don't see me right now. In Germany, I did more than 200 projects together with some partners, and I think we have a lot of practical experience with the topic of intellectual capital. So I'm going to tell you a little bit on that, and just a few words on the clients. Of course, they are parts of small industrial companies, they are medium-sized companies, they are part of educational institutions and public organizations, and right now I'm working with a very big brand name automotive supplier, which is based in Hanover, which you probably can guess. So I tried to do some explication of my experiences, and this is just a few publications, and probably for the international context, the INCAS guideline is maybe the most important. In the INCAS guideline, we try to explain the methodology of the intellectual capital made in Germany statements, and this is part of the intellectual capital statements made in Europe. So this is one technology, and this is the topic of my talk today. So let's focus a little bit on the different systems. When we talk about regions, this could be the meaning of geography, okay? So it could be a topographic area where
people are. It could be a political construct, like a nation, for example, or it could be an economic cluster. We have lots of clusters in Austria and German-speaking areas, and one of that clusters, of course, is the automotive sector I'm trying to talk about later on. In the knowledge domain, we have different functional areas, so we can differentiate intellectual capital to functions or to specific schools of thought. We can differentiate science and technology, of course, or we could differentiate a set of capabilities. So this is the knowledge domain, and the geography is another domain, but a region could be defined by community as well. Okay, so it could be the population of an area, it could be the population of a geographic topography, or it could be an interest group, for example, just people interested in intellectual capital, like we are now in this conference. Or it could be a community defined by their digital tools, maybe as a means to communicate. So the system boundaries are crucial. They make a very big difference. If we define the region as a geography, that's different than if we talk about a region of users to a specific tool. And I think these different regional or systems, they have different speeds of development. So if that works, I think geography is quite stable. And the knowledge domain is developing a little bit faster, right? And a community, comparatively, can change extremely fast. So in terms of intellectual capital, the speed of change is one crucial thing I would like to explore later on. Okay, I have another word in the title, and this is the technological revolution. And what kind of revolutions do we have? It could be a different technology in the first hand. So in the case I'm going to present, e-mobility is replacing combustion technology, which is in the news for the last couple of weeks, of course. But yeah, I think e-mobility is a really game-changing technology. We don't need, for example, the power drive system. This is just not needed anymore. Or the four-wheel drive dimension. This technology, which is particularly important for Austria, for example, this is just not necessary anymore. So it could be a new technology, like the way we produce cars or automotive devices. And this depends, of course, on the integration of production and focus on digital processes. A third dimension is the resource. Big data is a big topic, and most of the industries are very ill prepared. And finally, the revolution comes probably from the market dimension. Recently, we learned about the sharing culture. So in the industry, for particular automotive, it is maybe not necessary, or it's maybe not attractive for future customers, particularly young customers, to buy their cars, but just to use it from a pool. So this is an idea regarding the ownership of automotive devices. And this is a change, definitely, and this is having an impact on the volume of production. So this is the setting where our story happens, and the story is called the Automotive Cluster of Baden-Württemberg. And this is a map of Baden-Württemberg, and you see a couple of company brands. You see there are lots of original equipment suppliers in that region. You know, of course, Daimler, which is based in Stuttgart, and you know the other companies. Porsche, for example, a subsidiary of Volkswagen. But there are lots of suppliers, there are lots of universities, particularly in Karlsruhe and Stuttgart and Heilbronn and other areas, but not in this area, in the Black Forest. There's another dimension, this is science, and science, of course, is related to urban areas. The urban areas are Karlsruhe and Stuttgart in that direction, but there are others. So, and they're competing for talents. What we tried to find out in that project was what is the intellectual capital of that automotive region, and how is it going to develop? And there is one famous person, I think all of you are familiar with that face, I hope it works now. This is the former CEO of Daimler, and he stated, we have to reinvent cars. This was a statement he issued in 2009, so a couple of years ago, but not too long ago. This is when we started our project on assessing intellectual capital, which should be the focus for the rest of the speech, okay? So the next slide should be visible. Is intellectual capital a driver for change and adaptation? So this is the question we try to answer. And in order to answer that question, we try to assess the status quo of intellectual capital, okay? We try to assess the status quo of intellectual capital. And the second dimension, which is very important to us, is the impact of intellectual capital. Where can we see the impact and the effects of intellectual capital in the industry? So these are two very simple questions, which are the essential background and backbone for our way of assessing intellectual capital. And the third dimension is related to the future, of course. This is for options that are available for innovation policy and actions to improve. So these are the three questions we were trying to focus on, and this is the way we did the assessment based on a methodology, Wissensbilanz, made in Germany. I try to explain this two dimensions, which are essentially very simple. You see here a table that contains a long list of driving factors. So that constitutes the intellectual capital of a region. The intellectual capital drivers are developed in a participatory workshop. They are derived from literature, and they are tested with people, with experts from the region, and then verified in order to assess the status quo. The assessment per se is done in three dimensions, which you see in the box on the left upper side. So we have a simple tool to ask these questions and to document these questions. We ask for essentially three dimensions, which is the first is quantity. Do we have enough of this driver? Yeah? Is that what we have enough to accomplish our strategic objectives? And the second question relates to quality. Is that what we have of the right order, of the right quality, of the right dimension, or the right kind of resource we need to accomplish our strategic objectives? But these are two dimensions focusing on the present. These are two dimensions describing what we have here and now. And the third dimension is QCA, or quality management system. Do we have a plan what we do tomorrow? And second question is, do we monitor this plan? If we do something, of course, then we have to check if what we wanted to accomplish is already accomplished, or if we have to adopt different measures to get that strategic objectives done. So we have three dimensions: quality, quantity, describing the present, and systematic management as a kind of future-oriented dimension. And you see evaluations over here. This is the assessment part, and it is described in the INCAS intellectual capital statement in Europe and in Germany guidelines. You have that available on the internet in case you want to download it. And there is another dimension, which is down here in the left part of the slide. And this is quite simple. It's focusing on system dynamics, and the ideas were already originating in the 60s and 70s of the last century. Peter Senge is one of the most famous one. It's the fifth discipline. But there are other people like John Sterman from MIT working on that system dynamics as well. So the question here is, if we change a driver, how does that change impact the system? Okay, this is a very simple question, and there are essentially three options. So there is a small impact, or there is no impact at all, which could be, but that's bad, of course. There is a small impact, or there is a proportionate impact, or there is an exponential impact, a very strong impact on the system. And the impact could be either supporting, or it could be decelerating or dampening, so negative impact as well. For example, if I do a lot of investment, my cash goes down. So probably on the cash, the effect is negative. So I can code the effects of cause and effect patterns in this matrix. And then, this is the final part, we can visualize how our drivers are interdepending on each other and how one driver is having an effect on the others. So we can reconstruct a business model of a company, a small one, a big one, or if we can reconstruct the business model of a region. And this is what we try to find out in that particular area. Okay? The analysis was based on that framework, and the theory part is done already. So now I tell you just the application part of it. Okay? The application is extremely simple. We tried to analyze 3 levels. So the first level is small and medium-sized enterprises. So we focus on the company level, right? The second level is the regional level. So we have 9 different regions in Baden-Württemberg. So Baden-Württemberg is an area of about 10 million people. So one of these regional areas is representing probably 1 million. So altogether, these regions comprise Baden-Württemberg. And the third level is then the cluster level, which is containing all the 10 different regional clusters, right? So this is the level, which is a district probably, yeah, and then we focus on the cluster level, which is the whole region. So what did we learn from that region? In the SME perspective, we used a simple web-based template to assess and to survey the status quo of intellectual capital in companies. So we asked, what is the status quo of intellectual capital in your company? The second question is very simple. How important are these drivers? Yeah? And of course, we had to ask for some demographic data as well. But this was just for statistic purposes. And I hope now we can see the results. And the results are quite interesting in my point of view. I try to explain first what we mean here. Down here, you see the drivers of intellectual capital. You see we have some for human, structural, and relational capital. And for test purposes, we have some tangible assets as well. The tangible assets are focused on materials and facilities. Of course, we had some supplies as well, and financial resources as a corrective measure. We asked in the blue columns, how important are these drivers? And in the red columns, how important, how well developed is the status quo relative to the strategic priorities of the SMEs. And you see we have a scale of 10, of 0 to 10, and in almost every single driver, we have room for improvement. So on average, if you see the region of Baden-Württemberg automotive supply companies, they are on 70% in their own perception. See, this is on their importance. So these drivers are relatively more important than status quo. Okay? So the red columns are probably more interesting for the companies on the level to improve. And these blue columns give us direction where we should focus on first hand. So of course, customer relationships are important. I think we learned that already in some other chapters. Professional competence is very important. I think these results are quite assuring that we are on the right track, right? And so we find out about other dimensions, and always surprising is that the relational capital dimension are perceived relatively less important than, for example, structural capital or human capital. For me, this is interesting because we need to cooperate in value chains, right? I alone cannot produce a car. So we need to collaborate in a value chain, and we need to develop that on the intellectual capital start. So the challenge here for SMEs, for small enterprises, is that the status quo of intellectual capital is perceived lower than importance. Okay, so we have to adjust, we have to improve. This is very important for these organizations. So let's focus on the next dimensions, on regions. I didn't intend to have an animation here. I'm not sure if the screen is developing too slow. So these are different portfolios of intellectual capital. The first portfolio, this is just to give you an idea, okay? I'm just explaining the patterns, not the details. The pattern. This is human capital, this is structural capital and relational capital drivers, and here we have this material or financial capital control variables. Interesting for me, and probably for you as well, are the dimensions. So we have here on the vertical axis the quality part. And here we have the quantity part of the drivers of intellectual capital. And the pattern is that here we have a spread in the north-south direction, as we see here, okay, and down here. But we have completely different patterns as well, like here. So you see a horizontal pattern. And that means some regions have some parts of intellectual capital in ample supply, so they have lots of it, and some regions have not enough. The picture of this portfolio here in the middle on top says we have a very well developed intellectual capital in terms of quantity, but the quality is in some regions very well developed, and in some regions the quality is a real big problem. So we are focusing now on the provinces. Each of these small white bubbles is representing one of the 10 provinces of Baden-Württemberg, and we see there are different patterns of intellectual capital spreads. See, and here there are some new patterns where we have strengths in intellectual capital and extreme deficits. So I think this is helping us to understand that the intellectual capital in the whole region of Baden-Württemberg is very heterogeneous. So within the different provinces, intellectual capital is expressed extremely differently, and we need to differentiate our measures, our actions, our policies, our strategies to develop that region. That's the message of this slide. Let's move on. The one-fits-all strategy is inappropriate, highly inappropriate. So let's move on. This is the final cluster again. We have here the importance on the left side, and on the horizontal we have the potential for improvement. And if we focus on one driver, this is the only content message I would like to make, then the obvious statement is we need more experts. See, this is very different to other regions in Europe. They have no unemployment, but they need more experts. And this is a very limiting factor that is preventing the region to grow. And particularly, there is not enough talent on the e-mobility technology. So there are not enough experts on IT, not enough experts on battery and chemistry. There are not enough experts on electronics. So we need that kind of expertise. This is really problematic, and this cannot be changed with a few magic specs, unfortunately. But there are some other drivers, and I would like to focus on them. This driver is cooperation with economic partners, so other partners within the clusters. This is quite interesting, and for me it's the most astonishing finding. Leading figures, okay? I'm focusing on that next slide. The bubble down here is regional innovation management, regional innovation system management. So these are agencies supporting the SMEs to develop their strategies and their organizational structures in order to support the automotive industry. So this is, I hope, the driving areas where we could improve our regions. This is where we are strong already, but need little support, where we just have to stabilize the organization, wrong direction, where we have to stabilize the drivers. And these are drivers which are important and well developed, but not having the potential to support the region. Okay. The message here is, cluster managers, please shape up first. We don't have enough leading figures, okay? Leading figures, this is the one word I need very much. So we learned that we have lots of agencies supporting industry, but we need the leading business figures and the leading administrative figures who really can make a difference. This is the one essential finding of this intellectual capital study, and it was supported from other literature as well, but it really helped us to make a difference in that region. So coming to the regional cluster managers, we found out that they have quantitative resources, so they have budget, they have access to rooms and facilities. So this is the quantitative issues are not a problem for them, but they need special qualities and competences. So one of these measures to improve the intellectual capital of the e-mobility cluster in Baden-Württemberg was a series of knowledge transfer workshops. So this was one of the measures that really made a difference. And another one is that we don't have the knowledge transfer institutions, to transfer knowledge from universities and applied research organizations to the small and medium-sized enterprises. I think this is a standard problem which lots of regions in lots of technologies have in common. At least I found that from the industry as well. But we need the leading figures who really receive that knowledge. So how could we support these leading figures? This was the crucial finding on the cluster level. The cluster level, the leaders need support, and that's why we try to do a little of the network analysis of the interdependencies. How are these drivers related? We have customer relations, of course. We have investor relations. And we have budget for R&D, and if we follow the regional technology part, we can innovate products. And so this circle can start to spin, but it's still interrupted. So according to our assessment, we need qualified stuff. Yeah, we need new technologies. The qualified stuff is not available right now. People are not available, and you cannot make them just like that. But we have a positive managerial attitude towards innovation. That's a supply we have, an asset. And how could we stimulate that asset? I think we could just support collaboration, cooperation. This is another important driver. But the question is, how could we support collaboration and cooperation? This, of course, is done by leading figures. The leading figure part is yellow, so it's not very well developed. We need more of them. Yeah? And one way to leverage leading figures is to use the cluster managers and support them a little bit better. So this is a deficit. Here we have a deficit, and here we have a deficit as well. But the idea was, if we manage to use the resources we have for cluster managers to free some time for the leading figures, and give them better access and leverage their time better, they could create the collaboration, and they could talk organizations to invest more R&D budget, and this magically would improve our problems in the qualified stuff, probably less, but at least in the new technologies, and it would free the innovation which is already in the organization, so we can start to spin that circle. That cause and effect pattern helped us to derive a number of measures, and I'm going to give you now two of them and then finishing my presentation. We created TechNet groups in that area. So the idea was to have mentors from industry background as well as from science background, and they help us to create the right topics, and they help us to create the new contacts and matchmaking. So it was supported for 4 different topics. I will not talk about the topics because this is not important for us today, but the TechNet groups work as a leverage to support the leading figures. This is the message here. And I'm talking about knowledge transfer. So the knowledge transfer from academic institutions is quite interesting as well. We started here, this was in 2010. To improve the knowledge transfer between research development and research and development institutions, between universities, for example, and companies in the automotive cluster. So in the beginning, we had these stages. Then we had rising expectations, see? And the blue line is going down a little bit. People were disappointed because after just 1 year, it was not working that well. Not yet, okay? Not yet. But in the second year, this gained momentum, and we started to really see a deep impact and a difference. So the actions for improvement became effective. This data came based on the assessment of intellectual capital on the SME level, of course, and on the cluster level, and aggregated on the whole level of Baden-Württemberg. So you see, we have the controlling system, a monitoring system that helps us to develop the intellectual capital of that region and to be specific on the bottlenecks where we should focus on, and to create an impact that really helps the organizations. So these are the lessons learned. We have the differentiated analysis. This is my last slide. We can identify and assess intellectual capital. I think we agree on that. We can agree about interdependencies of intellectual capital drivers within each other, and identify the strongest levers, the strongest forces that really make a change, a difference in the system. And that helps us to develop a strategy to develop the region, change to the technology, and finally, of course, we were lucky enough to discover visible differences over time. So I see I used my 30 minutes full. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Manfred, for your excellent presentation. I think we have some questions. We will put the questions. Some questions, please. There are no questions? Oh.
Nice to hear you, Manfred.
Hello.
Just one question. As far as I've seen in your presentation, you used Inca's methodology practically with unchanged with at the region level or at the cluster level.
Yes.
But with some, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And have you tried using other methodologies at the cluster level, for example, relying on the methodologies on cluster analysis, have a lot of methodologies for cluster analysis, or do you prefer to stick to the Inca's methodology?
Well, what?
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. What we learned is that we have different drivers of intellectual capital on the SME level and on the regional level, and that we need to aggregate all that data on the province level. So we have different kinds of intellectual capital drivers, and we try to homogenize them, to integrate them to just one image. And I think that's difficult enough because, for example, geographic proximity is a driver which is extremely important if we talk about the whole state Baden-Württemberg. Okay, so geographical proximity is important between the cities of Stuttgart and Karlsruhe, for example. And because they're very close, they have a strong interaction. But because of the Black Forest, which is a huge area, a long distance, that is probably a disadvantage. But this is interesting only on the state level. Yeah? On the SME level, on the company level, this is not the proper driver. So we have to focus, for example, a little bit more on cooperation to each other or other dimensions of relational capital. So we try to homogenize this, and we did not make any changes in other methodologies.
Thank you, Manfred. Some more questions? I have a question. In Portugal, it's very difficult to contact to the SMEs and to convince them of the importance of IC report. According to your experience, what we can do in order to have more success? You have success.
Yes, we used the agencies who are already there to support the SMEs. So we call them Chamber of Commerce. So these are agencies where companies are members by law. Yeah, so this is a kind of lobby group, and we use that lobby group who has all the data, all the address data, so we could contact these organizations and filter just for automotive organizations. And we had them in our steering committee, so they helped us to address these organizations and get the feedback from the SMEs. And because the topic, how can we change to the new field of e-mobility, because this topic is very important, the SMEs gave us a little bit of their time in exchange for the learning out of that study. And then they got some support as well. So they learned about the status quo on their own. They got some benchmarking as well. And so they saw some benefits. And you have to give them some benefit in order to get something, in that case, the responses. So this is how we did it.
Okay.
Yeah? Give and take.
Okay, thank you. And you start by demonstrating the difference in SMEs or regions with an IC report. What is your kind of first contact?
Well, most of the time it's a technical or functional contact. This could be either the buying office, yeah. This could be quality management office, because they develop the structure of an organization, or this could be human resource office, human resource development. So we have three different entry gates to the organization. And of course, the owner of the organization, who is maybe member of a management network or part of that lobbying organization, he is a very important role as well. So we have 3 to 4 levels to enter the organization. On the functional level, it's only
we have problems with internet. We can't hear.
Is more important.
Please, can you repeat? Okay.
So can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So
it's not possible to hear you now. Yeah, please.
Okay, I didn't change anything.
Okay.
Okay, is it improving now?
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah. So we have 3 levels of entry. The first is the human resource department. Second is the quality management department. And the sourcing department, who is making the buying decisions, is a third dimension, how we could enter a company and make some first contact. But the most relevant contact is the owner, who is probably a member of the lobbying organization. So in case we come to the company on a functional level, we still have to get the support of top management. Yeah? Top management and owners have to say, yes, we commission a project, or yes, we allow you to participate on that project. But essentially we have 3 functional entry points: quality management, HR, and the buying department. So this is quite successful, I think.
Okay, thank you. I think we have another question in broadcast presentation now. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
No? Okay. Some more questions? No?
Yeah, so
okay.
Yeah.
Professor Vierma.
Just one thing. I think that when you say SMEs in Germany, would you mind to specify the size of the companies? Because the SMEs in Portugal, I think they are not the same size
Yes.
than the ones in.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, which is the size of company that could be interested in these issues of intellectual capital?
So there are very important companies like Bosch, which is not a small company. You know Bosch, of course. You know probably Trumpf, which is very strong in laser technology and air pressure, and some other companies which are very large, so 20,000 to 300,000 members. But we have lots of organizations representing like maybe 10 to 20,000 employees. So these are the medium-sized big organization, and then we have a lot of supplying companies. For example, I learned that there are 5,000 organizations working in polishing surfaces. So these are very small, very specialized supplying organizations, but 5,000 of them, okay? This is a huge number, and of course they are in extreme competition, and they suffer a lot on a loss of knowledge and loss of experience and loss of patents, for example. So they have different issues on trust. They don't like to collaborate a lot, But because people are sometimes, talking about their job, and so the transfer of knowledge happens in that part of the region. Yeah. So these are very specific and regional specific effects. So they are quite diverse landscape of organizations.
Okay, thank you. So it's easier to contact the big companies, but you can contact also the SMEs. We have the same definition, the European definition of SMEs. Is that? Okay. There are no more questions? So thank you. Have a nice afternoon. We have a good intellectual capital, Portuguese intellectual capital, a good one. We will try to send you this intellectual capital, this intangible asset, but the broadcast session don't permit to send you in this moment, but by post we will send you a tangible intellectual capital. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later. Thank you. And now, Professor Viedma has time to have his intellectual capital, his Portuguese intellectual capital.
Oh, thank you.
For you.
Thank you.
For this night.
Thank you very much.
It's not Mateus Rosé, okay?
It's much better.
It's much better. It's wine from the region of Santarém and so on. It's from my region.
This one will not be in Carrefour.
Probably the last year they export a lot of wine, and Tejo is a wine in a very expensive process. We will take a coffee.
Okay.
After we will talk a little about ICA and our projects, and after we will continue with a session with Miguel Poiás Madures, our last minister. He is in Florence, but today he will be with us in this conference to sharing his experience and his ideas for the competitive and sustainable development of Portugal. Okay? Have a nice coffee.